Hey, what's going on? This is Wonderful Will of the Bag Show. I want to talk about a video that CNN's Michael Smerconish posted talking about why a lot of men, particularly young men, had pretty much checked out of the dating game and men are not getting involved in a relationship and marriages. I watched this video in its entirety, and I have to say, man, that it really pissed me off because they are blaming men for failed and potential relationships. Smerconish had two guests to speak on that matter. First guest was Scott Galloway. He's a professor at NYU, and the other guest is Christine Emba of the Washington Post, and she's an opinion columnist. They had their input on this BS to the public. Watch this video clip, and I will give you my take on it, on this hogwash.
Christine, what drew you to the subject matter, and speak to the enormity of the reaction?
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for having me, and thank you, Scott, for your kind words. I'll speak to the enormity of the reaction first. I have been overwhelmed by how quickly the piece has taken off, and how many people it feels like people were sort of waiting for someone to finally say it so that they could begin to have the conversation that they had been worried about for months, for years. As Scott was saying, people are worried about their sons, their brothers, in some cases their husbands. I get a good amount of email, but I've never gotten this much email from a single piece before. And, we run our comments section usually for 3 days. And the comments were shut down early because there were 10,500 comments on this one piece, which I cannot think of another article that's had that sort of response. So it really does feel like people are experiencing this in their lives. They're seeing their male friends and loved ones struggle, look for direction and not know where to find it. And I'll say that I started thinking about this piece. Actually, you mentioned my book, Rethinking Sex. That book was sort of an investigation of sexual and relationship culture after Me Too, trying to figure out whether sort of our changes in norms had worked for us, if they had delivered what they promised. And I talked to a lot of young women for that book, but I also spoke to young men too. And it was from them that I found the most curious and saddening response. So many of them just seemed totally confused. The sands had shifted beneath them, as Scott lays out frequently. The economy has shifted in a way that doesn't necessarily favor manual labor skills where men used to dominate. Women are succeeding more in college and elsewhere, which, to be clear, is a great thing. But young men didn't know what they were supposed to be doing or almost what they were for. Should I talk to women? Maybe I shouldn't talk to women anymore because that's seen as toxic somehow. So instead, they were just retreating. They were, staying in their rooms. They were, instead of trying to ask a real person out on a date, they were watching porn to feel like they were, getting their power back. They would begin to look up to these figures like, Andrew Tate, for instance, or Jordan Peterson. And they just
Scott,
didn't know to do.
Scott, a part of this that you've addressed is the lack of sex, right? These guys are not having the type of relationships that young men of a different era would be having.
Look, we don't like to talk about it. We hear the word sex and our brain fires a bunch of different places. But think of, the whole shooting match, the whole reason we have an economy, the whole reason we're focused on creating a more prosperous, secure nation is such that we can all recognize what is the key to a rewarding life. And that is a series of deep, meaningful relationships. And core to that, or anchor to that, and I'm not saying you have to have this to be happy, is a productive, loving relationship with a partner. And you can look at the most unstable, violent societies in the world, and they all have one thing in common. They all have a disproportionate amount of young men who have no economic opportunity and also have no opportunity for relationships. And if we're going to have an honest conversation, we need to have an honest conversation. Sex and companionship are huge motivators and guardrails for young men. They put on a shirt, they blow dry their hair, they get their act together, they get a job. So the attributes, the peanut butter and chocolate of behaviors between masculinity and femininity make for a better world. And again, that's not to say that people along the middle of that continuum don't deserve the same respect and the same dignity. But most households prosper when there are risk aggressive, rambunctious, more prone to action attributes of masculinity in concert with more thoughtful and more loving femininity. And when men aren't engaging in relationships with women, and women can't find men they find, quite frankly, sexually attractive, we're in trouble. The greatest innovation in history wasn't the computer chip, it wasn't the iPhone, it was the middle class. And the thing that gave birth to the middle class was 7 million men returning from war who were given jobs and money and low interest loans, and quite frankly, demonstrated the heroics and the economic security to be very attractive to a lot of women. And we had the baby boom and the inspiration and the formation of the greatest entity of good in the history of mankind, the American middle class. Sex, companionship are key. And 1 in 3 men under the age of 30 in the United States has not had sex in the last year. And quite frankly, that as an adult is when they become bad citizens. It's no one's obligation to service them, but we need more economically and more emotionally viable men such that we can have more household formation.
Like I said, they are blaming men for the failure of relationships and the failure of marriages and potential marriages. Clearly, you can see there's an agenda from these misandrists. This woman sitting up there with that grim smile saying that there is something wrong with the young man and they have some kind of social misfunction that make them unable to communicate with females. And the men feel inferior toward women. Like she said, the women are outperforming men in the educational level and in the job market. Totally girl power energy. Yeah, right. Also, she was talking about how a lot of young men are living with their parents, watching a lot of porn, and playing video games to boost their masculinity, and they are not motivated to better themselves so they can be suitable candidates for husband for perfect modern-day women. You have to be kidding me. And this man, Professor Galloway theory is that a lot of young men are losing their masculinity because they're not having enough sex. I guess sex is the foundation of strong masculinity for us men. No sex, men are just losers, and we just give up and live in our parents' basement. Oh, also, we beat our meat. Yeah. I'm pretty sure you noticed, like I did, both guests did not mention any faults of women. I watched this video several times to make sure that they said what they said. They said nothing about holding women accountable too for the failure of relationships. They pretty much said that it's the man's fault. Misandrists like Christine Emba refuse to tell the truth that modern women hold the most accountability to why men are not trying to engage in relationships with them. The truth is that men are tired and fed up with these Western women attitudes. To come after younger men like that is ridiculous. Younger men had seen how bad the older men have been treated by their wives or girlfriends. Men losing everything they worked hard for after these modern women took them to divorce court, and they have to pay child support if kids are involved. Younger men seen it happen to their fathers, uncles, mentors, etc. In my opinion, younger men have figured out the game. They are not social misfits. They are wise at a young age, and these modern women know that, and they don't want to admit that. It's easy for them to blame men for their failure of relationships. Now, if you go on YouTube or Instagram, you will see modern women crying and being frustrated that men are not approaching them like they used to. I have to say, a lot of those videos are hilarious. The truth is that a lot of modern women realize that men have something precious like they have, and that is we have options. Such as men getting passport and visiting other countries like the Philippines, Dominican Republic, Colombia, etc. to find traditional women, and the modern women hate it. That's right. When it's all boiled down to it, they can't stand the fact that we have options. For decades, we have sat there and put up with that disrespect. They condescending attitudes. Always want to put a man down. If a man even have a certain type of interest with them, what do? Get away from me, you creep. You loser. We already know what this is. Don't fall for the trap, folks. Men, Don't fall for that. You know you're entitled to have standards, and you don't have to lower your standards or morals to be with these women. If they're not going to act right, then exercise your options. You don't have to put up with that nonsense. And now they have mainstream media now getting involved, trying to blame us men because the failure of relationships and why there's not a lot of people getting married. They want to point the blame on us, when clearly that's not the truth. Now, would I say that some men, that's quite a few men, might have some issues? That's fair. But women have issues too, but it doesn't be acknowledged. It's just easy to blame the men for that. And we're not going to stand for that nonsense. We're not going to fall for the bullshit. Excuse my language. But we're just going to keep doing what we do. Men, just keep doing it. Younger men, you just stay wise. Do not get caught up. Do not get trapped in that nonsense. Continue to better yourself. Make a lot of money. Save your money. And just do well. And then you can go in this market and you get to choose who you want. And that's it. Then you have a right to be happy. You don't have to fall into this norm they have created. See, us older men, we went through all that nonsense. And a lot of us paid for it. So we suffer for that for the younger men. We want y'all to do better, because you're going to have to carry this torch. You're going to have to set the balance, because right now there is a total uneven balance in this relationship game in this Western world, especially in the U.S. It's up to you all to balance it. But that's all I have to say right there. And I thank you all for listening. And also, just continue to listen to the Bag Show. We ask you to subscribe, like and subscribe to our channel, and just continue to support us. We really are eager to just move up and just make our voice heard. And we will represent us men. It is not and plus, let me just put this out. It's not men versus women. We just want to set the order right and the way things should be. But once again, I say thank you, and you all take care, and you have a great day. Peace.
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, and I still go. Go, 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 go.
Hey, this is Wonderful Will of the Bag Show. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Bag Show. We appreciate your support in advance. Peace.